Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. If you're new, my name is Christina and today is the last mystery box challenge of 2025. It is by far my favorite one that we do throughout the year because each of us creators that are participating are going to do a random act of kindness in honor of Courtney's mother. If you guys don't know who Courtney is, she is the creator of this whole thing, the mystery box challenge. She gets a group of DIY YouTubers together here on YouTube. We all send each other a box of 10 items. In that box, there has to be 2 challenge items. There's also a theme every time, a guest host, and then also a twist. This time around, the guest host is Courtney herself, and the theme that she chose was Winter Wonderland. Now, I actually received my box from Courtney this time, and then I sent my box over to Emily at Farm Charm Chic, and I'm really excited to see what Courtney sent me, but I think the last time I sent her a box, I sent her a duck decoy as one of the challenge items, so I don't know if she's going to pay me back for that or not. I hope she was really nice because I have like one day to film this before we head on vacation. So for the items in the box, Courtney sent us a list. 4 of the items were sender's choice. Then we had to send a white item, a cookie cutter, a sparkly item, wood item, and then for the 2 challenge items, one of them could be sender's choice, and then the other one, we got to pick a Christmas movie from the list that Courtney sent us, and then we had to send an item that's related to that movie, which I thought that was really cute. I liked that idea a lot, and I'm really excited to see what Courtney sent me. Hopefully it's not too hard. Let's go ahead and open up the box now. Okay, right on top, we have a little card that says Christina. It says, Christina, happy December mystery box. I think I was a little nicer than I planned to be. I know you will nail this box as you always do. Can't wait to see what you create. Happy crafting. Much love, Courtney. Aw, thank you, Courtney. I don't know. I'm kind of glad to hear that you think you were nicer this round. And then she also sent me some candy, some nerd gummies. Lots of confetti. All right, there. That's a lot of confetti. I can probably use that maybe for something. All right, looks like she has everything labeled. We'll start with this one here. This is my choice. So this is one of hers, just one of these little Dollar Tree ornaments. And we have the wood item. Looks like some of those little angels from Dollar Tree. Some really pretty ribbon. This was her choice as well. Some jingle bells. This was also her choice. We have the sparkly item. This is glitter. I hate glitter. My husband hates glitter. Oh boy, this should be fun. But the theme is Winter Wonderland, so this will work with that theme, but gosh, I hate glitter. All right, we have challenge items, so I'm gonna go ahead and set those ones aside. All right, we have my choice. This is, looks like a mini wreath, super cute. And then we have the white item, which this looks like one of those mop heads from Dollar Tree. This is great. Thank you. I'm glad you sent this. Well, let's go ahead and open up the challenge items now. This is challenge number 9. It's Courtney's choice. And I will say, she sent Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer paper, so I'm wondering if that's not the movie that she chose. Oh, okay. We have, this looks like hair clips that look like flowers. Is that a hair clip? Yeah, that's a hair clip. Got to get thinking on that one. Oh, okay. I didn't see this. So it's Rudolph paper, but the movie she has written on here is Elf. So I was wrong. Okay, candy canes from the movie Elf, which by the way, I love Elf. I actually love all the movies that she put on there, but I really like Elf. We watch it every year. Okay. I think I'm okay. Courtney, you were so nice to me. I had a bad feeling that you were going to be kind of mean after that duck decoy last year. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get crafting, and we'll see you back here soon. For the first DIY today, I'm going to be starting with this piece of paper that I cut out into a mitten shape. I'm then using this green and white fabric from Hobby Lobby. I just set the mitten on the fabric as a guide to help me cut the mitten shape out of the fabric, and I did this 2 different times so that I had 2 mittens, and they are going to be actually 1 mitten because now I'm going to start gluing the edges together. I just did hot glue around all of the edges, but I did leave the top portion of the mitten open. Next, I'm going to be using this white mop head that Courtney sent in my box. And here I'm just figuring out where I need to cut it to be able to put it on the top of my mitten. And I ended up just cutting both ends of the mop head off. And then I trimmed them up on each side just to make them a little bit shorter. And wow, was this messy once I cut it. And next, I'm just going to be using some hot glue to attach the white pieces to the top of my mitten on the front and then on the back side as well. I wanted to make the edges look a little bit cleaner around my mitten, so I'm taking 2 pieces of jute twine and using some hot glue to attach them all the way around the edges of my mitten. And then remember that mini wreath that Courtney sent? Well, here I'm just going to be taking it apart and I'm snipping off the greenery that was on it. And then because this is a winter wonderland theme, I'm using some white paint and just painting over all of the greenery to make it look like they have snow on them. I'm also going to be using 2 of these silver bells that Courtney sent in my box, but I did want them to be gold instead of silver, so I'm using some of my antique gold rub and buff and just applying it to 2 of the bells. I'm then going to be adding some more details to the mittens. Here I took 2 pieces of jute twine, glued it on the back side, and then wrapped that jute around to the front, and now I'm just going to be creating a really cute little bow on the front of my mitten. And then I did end up placing the 2 bells on a piece of jute, and then here you can see I'm just attaching them with some glue on the left top side of the mitten. And then I had this Let It Snow tag in my craft stash that I thought would go perfect with this, so I placed that on a piece of jute, and then here I'm just going to be attaching that right next to the bells. Now I'm going to be adding that greenery from the wreath. I'm just using some glue to attach it on the inside of the top of my mitten. I'm also using some of these shimmery greenery pieces I had, as well as some of these gold stems. I just thought those gold tied in with the gold bells. Then for the last step, I'm going to be using some of this candy cane challenge item that Courtney sent in my box. I'm removing the red and then also the white from this candy cane, and I'm only going to be using a small piece of the white as a hanger on the back of my mitten. And then to attach the hanger, I just used some hot glue on the back side of the mitten. And this is what it looks like all finished. I think it turned out super cute. I love all of the colors together, and I ended up just hanging it on a handle on one of my cabinets in my living room, and I just really like how this one turned out. Let me know what you guys think. And now for DIY number 2. For this one, I'm using this unfinished wood table leg. And the first thing I'm doing is just taking some pliers and unscrewing the screw that's in the top of the leg. I'm then going to be painting the entire thing with some white chalk paint. For this project, I am making a snowman and I needed a hat, and I had this snowman ornament from Dollar Tree, so I'm just going to be taking it apart because I do not like the colors that are on it and I want to make it look a little bit better. So I'm just pulling everything apart, and surprisingly the glue was like really on there, so I had a hard time with that. But once I got it off, I just started using this green and white striped fabric from Hobby Lobby to cover the styrofoam on the hat, and I just used hot glue to secure it around the styrofoam. And then for the bottom portion of the hat, I left that burlap material, and then I just hot glued the styrofoam piece back onto the burlap. Then to jazz it up a little bit, I used some of this white rope and I wrapped it around the hat twice. Just used some hot glue to secure it. And then I had this little piece that was originally on the hat that I wanted to reuse. So I'm just going to be hot gluing that back on and then using some of the greenery that was from that wreath that Courtney sent me. I had a little extra piece, so I'm just attaching that to the hat with some frosty pine cones. And this is where I'm going to be incorporating those wood angels that Courtney sent. I'm first going to be removing the paper wings off of the back, and then off camera I sawed off the heads of the angels because I'm going to use those round circles for the buttons on my snowman. So I did need to have those black, so here I'm just giving those a quick coat of black paint. And then before I start attaching everything, I cut a scrap piece of that same fabric I used for the hat, and I'm hot gluing it around what's going to be the neck of my snowman because this is his scarf. And then now I'm just going to go ahead and attach those buttons in the center of his belly. And then for the nose, I took a scrap piece of balsa wood from my stash and I'm just cutting a very small piece into the shape of what I think looks like a carrot. And then of course I had to paint that piece orange, so I just used a paint marker to do that. And then I'm using the end of a paintbrush to dot on his two eyes. I glued on his nose, and then I did the same thing with the end of a paintbrush to do the little circles for his mouth. Remember the wreath that Courtney sent? Well, I figured these wire pieces that were from the wreath would be perfect for my snowman's arms. So here I'm just cutting off the berries, and then I'm taking two of the pieces and gluing them together to look kind of like a stick. And then I did two of them, one for each arm. Once I had those made, I'm just going to be gluing them on each side of my snowman. I then wanted to add a cute little detail, so I took two pieces of jute and then these mini blocks that have letters on them. I spelt out the word snow, and I'm just attaching the wood blocks to the jute. And then once I have those attached, I'm then gonna hot glue the pieces of jute on each arm of my snowman so it looks like he's holding up the word snow. I then added a cute little button right in the center of where the scarf comes together, and then I hot glued that hat that I created right on the top of his head. This is what the snowman looks like all finished. I think he's super cute. I had so much fun creating him, and I would love to know what you guys think of my snowman. Next is DIY number 3. For this one, I'm going to be using that metal ornament that Courtney sent in my box. I'm also going to be using one of these mini unfinished wood houses that I had in my craft stash. I'm going to be using some walnut wood tint to stain the outside of the house and the chimney. Then for the roof of the house, I just used a white chalk paint. For this project, I'm also going to be using these two unfinished wooden candlesticks from Hobby Lobby. They have the metal insert inside, and normally they're really easy to just pop out, but I was having a really hard time because the glue was extra strong on these ones. So what I ended up doing was just cutting that metal down to where the wood would sit flush with each other when I glue them together. I'm then using that same walnut wood tint to stain these candlesticks so it's the same color as my house. Then for the door on my house, I used this small scrap piece of wood, and I'm just using some antique gold rub and buff to give this door a gold look. Then I'm just going to be hot gluing that door onto the front of my house. And then to make the doorknob, I didn't have anything that was that tiny, so I ended up just using the end of a paintbrush with some black paint and just dotting it on. I then wanted to have a wreath for above my door, so I took one of these small greenery stem pieces that I had in my stash. I'm cutting it down so that when I form it into a circle, it's not too bushy. So once I have it cut down, I'm just gonna form it into the circle. The wires I just tie together at the top, and then because this is a winter wonderland, I took some white paint and painted over the green to look like snow. I'm then hot gluing the wreath above the door, and then remember those angel wings that were made out of paper? Well, I'm cutting them down a little bit, and then I'm gluing them to the edge of the roof of my house because I thought it looked just like snow. I'm then adding some white puffy paint to the entire roof, and then along the edge of the roof, I had the puffy paint go over that paper that was the angel wings, and then this is where I'm incorporating that glitter that Courtney sent. I'm using the white glitter, and I'm very lightly just sprinkling it over that white puffy paint while it's still wet so that it gives the snow a really pretty sparkle. Now back to that ornament that Courtney sent. I'm going to be using some white paint, and I'm just painting the entire inside of this piece. I'm then going to be taking one of these small snowmen from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to be painting the snowman white, his hat black, and then just adding his eyes, a nose, his mouth, and then some buttons. I did end up using a piece of jute for his scarf. Now I'm going to start putting everything together. I started by attaching the house in the center. I'm then going to attach my snowman to the right of the house, and then I had one of these small little pine trees in my craft stash, and I'm going to attach that to the left side of the house. And then I wanted to have the appearance of snow around all of my little figures. So here I'm using some white puffy paint, and I'm putting a generous amount all over the bottom of that ornament and like on the wood portion that you see there on the tree. And then once I have all of that puffy paint added, I did go through and add some of that glitter just to give that a sparkle as well. Next, I'm attaching my wood pieces to the center of the bottom of my ornament, but after I had it attached, I thought I still needed another wood bottom piece, so I took this circle from my craft stash, I stained it with that wood tint in the color walnut, and then I'm just going to be gluing that to the bottom of those candlesticks. And then this is where I'm going to bring in another portion of that angel. This is the one that I cut off the round portion for my snowman. I had it left over, and I thought this would be a really cute topper on this cloche that I have from Dollar Tree. So I put that on the top, and then I put the cloche over top of all of my little figures and my ornament. And the very last step, I thought it would be super cute to add one of my velvet ribbons, so I'm just making a really cute little bow, and I'm attaching it at the top. And this is what the piece looks like all finished. I had a lot of fun creating this one as well. This is a great piece not only for Christmas, but you could keep this out all winter long. Next up is DIY number 4. For this project, I'm going to be using one of the challenge items that Courtney sent, which was this pink hair clip. And I really didn't know what to do with this, so I just started taking the clip apart and just kind of staring at it for a while. And then I was thinking, okay, the little claw portions of it kind of look like icicles, so I'm just going to cut them off, and then I'm going to be attaching them to one of these little mini houses that I had in my craft stash. This is from the Target Dollar Spot a while ago, and I just kept it because I knew I would redo it. I did want to add a little roof on it, so I'm taking some of this balsa wood, and I just measured how much I would need for my roof, and then now I'm just cutting it down with some miter shears. I'm then using some white paint and painting over the words that were on the front of the house. And then for those pieces of balsa wood that I cut down, I'm using a walnut wood tint just to give them a stained look. I'm then attaching those pieces of wood to the front roof line of my house, and then I'm taking those pieces of plastic that I cut off of the hair clip and I'm attaching them on the roof line of the house. This is what's going to look like icicles falling from the roof, but to make them actually look like icicles or snow, I used that white puffy paint once again, and I did a couple coats of it just to really give it that layered real snow icicle look. And then while the puffy paint was still wet, I used some more of that white glitter that Courtney sent, and I just made it look really sparkly. I then cut out this walking in a winter wonderland saying on my Cricut. I thought it would be really cute on the front of this house. So here I'm just getting it transferred to the front of the house, and that was it for this project. I think it was a really simple and cute project, and I really had no idea what to do with that clip. I would love to know, what would you have done with it? Next up is DIY number 5, and this is the cookie cutter that Courtney sent. I actually missed it in the unboxing because it was underneath some of that confetti, but here it is now. So what I ended up doing was just pressing out some clay and then using the cookie cutter to cut out 6 different stars. And then I'm also going to be using this acrylic sign. This one is from Hobby Lobby. And what I ended up doing is just cutting out this saying on my Cricut that says the stars are brightly shining. I just got it transferred right in the center. And then I'm now going to be gluing those clay stars onto a strand of jute. And then I wanted to add a little bit of something to them. So I took 6 gold stars. These are like beads, but I had them in my craft stash, and I'm just going to be attaching those right to the center of the clay stars, and then I glued the jute kind of going like along the top, like you can see here. I'm just going to be placing that acrylic piece back in the stand that it came with, and then I wanted to add a little bit of greenery. So I have these frosted picks in my stash, and I'm just gluing them on the bottom, and then in between the greenery I added a sparkly pine cone. And this is the project all finished. I really wasn't sure what I was going to do with that mini cookie cutter, but this is the best I could come up with. I think it actually looks really cute, and I'm happy with how this one turned out. Moving right into DIY number 6, remember the candy canes that Courtney sent? And I've already unraveled them for an earlier project in the video, but this part I'm going to be using just the plastic pieces of the candy canes. I was looking at it for a while and I really wasn't sure, so usually I just start cutting things apart if I'm not sure what to do with them and just kind of looking at them for a while. But what I came up with was a wreath form. So I'm just going to cut the candy cane, like the long part, off, and then it's going to create like this circle like you can see here. But to hold it together, I used 2 small pieces of wire and I just pushed it through, and then along the back side I just secured it down. So now that I have the wreath form made, I wanted to paint it green so that you couldn't see that cream color poking through. So just painting it with some green paint and letting that dry. And then for the greenery on the wreath, I took these picks from Hobby Lobby and I'm just cutting them down really small and hot gluing them all the way around the wreath, and I made it look pretty full. And then because this is Winter Wonderland, I ended up using some white paint and just lightly painting it over all of the greenery to make it look like snow. And here's the wreath all finished. I ended up using some of this green velvet ribbon and just attaching it to one of these mini signs that I had. Before we get into the next project, I do want to talk about my random act of kindness that I'm doing this year. In our local town at the library, they do a mitten tree collection every year where they collect new gloves, mittens, scarves, hats for both children and adults. And my son and I went and started getting a collection of gloves and hats. We'll be adding some more to this collection, and then we're going to take them to the library for donation. Now moving into DIY number 7. This is the last one in today's video. I started with this larger unfinished wood tag sign, and I'm painting the entire thing with some white paint. I then have these letters to spell out the word Hello Winter, and I'm just going to be using a black paint marker to paint them black. I then went through and glued each one of the letters down in the center of the sign so it says Hello Winter. And then I thought it would be really pretty to add some snowflakes to this sign. So these unfinished wood ones I had in my stash, I painted them with a metallic silver, and then I glued a few of them down. And then this is where I'm going to be incorporating the ribbon that Courtney sent. I'm just going to be creating a bubble bow. I'm not really sure what the name of this type of bow would be called, but I created one. And then for the tail ends, I just cut those in a dovetail, and then I'm attaching that bow to the right side of the sign. And then I ended up just adding a few smaller metallic snowflakes as well, just because I thought they needed a few more pieces. Here's the sign all finished. It was such a quick, easy, fun project. I really hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, I hope that you will consider subscribing. And don't forget to go down in my description box and click on the playlist so that you can check out everybody else's videos that are in today's mystery box challenge. And I would love to hear which project that you like best from today's video. Thank you so much for watching.